All right, so if I'm going to look for points of intersection, I've got two ways to use my calculator to do that. The first way is graphically, so I'm going to put both my equations, I'm going to set them both in y equals form and plug them in as y1 and y2, and then I'm going to use my second calc, so that's my second trace, and I'm going to use the intersection. So here I've got, well, thinking, I've got a quadratic, and I've got a line, and I can see that they meet at 2 points, so I can use my intersect to say which lines I'm looking at. So first curve, yes, the parabola is my first curve, yes, the line is my second curve. I'm going to go for this one. It looks like they meet just after 1, so I'm going to guess 1.2. And here's my point of intersection, which I would then round to 3 significant figures for my x and y. If I want to use polysimult, well, if we come in and look at our polysimult app, we would think that we would want to do simultaneous equations. But if we pick simultaneous equations, if I say 2 equations, 2 unknowns, then when it wants me to type in my equations, this is assuming x, y constant. But if I have a parabola, I have an x squared term. So I can't actually use the simultaneous equations. Instead, if I have one equation that's y1, so let's say our first equation here, this blue one, was y equals 3x squared minus x minus 2. This line here was y equals 2x minus 1. Since they're both y equals and the point where they intersect, they share the same y value, they share the same x value, I can set these two equations equal to each other. So 3x squared minus x minus 2 has to be equal to 2x minus 1. If I move all of this to the other side, 3x squared, I've got negative x here. If I subtract 2x, I get minus 3x. I've got minus 2 here. If I add my 1 to the other side, it's the opposite of minus 1 is add 1. I'd get minus 1 here equals 0. Now it's equal to 0, and I can use my root finder. So in my root finder, I've got a quadratic. So I'm going to type in my values, 3, negative 3, positive 1, and solve. We know something's wrong there because we know we had solutions. So let me see, did I type in something wrong? So 3, negative 1. So now I can see my two x values. So these are my values for x. I need to have my y values as well. So once I have these x values, I'm going to hit store and make that first x, I'm going to make that a. Okay, apparently I've already got a as something else. So it wants me to use d. All right, I'll use d. Let me store this one as e. Okay. So now I'm going to go back into I need to figure out the y values for my x values. So now I can go back to my home screen and use either one of these two equations to find my y values. So we know that our two x values, x1 was approximately the 1.26 that I got graphically. So my y1, I'm going to plug that into this equation because it's the easiest. So I'm going to say 2, my first variable was d, so that's down here, 2d minus 1, and I get 1.53, which matches that one. My second x value, I can't remember what that was, but my calculator does. That was my letter E. So my second x value was about negative 0.264. And then I can do the same thing and find my second y value. by doing 2x minus 1. So 2, this time I'm using e, minus 1. And I get negative 1.53. So notice we had two solutions and we have to find both of them. So both the xy, both the xy. So with my graph, I would have to go back and find this second one as well.